This time it's another spectacular road trip to see America then and now through the eyes of old photos and postcards. I'm in my 1968 Ford Galaxie crew cab in Rustic, Nevada, and finding one of the greatest gearhead-related old towns ever. Before we hit the road, I'll give you a quick catch-up on the crazy last 2 weeks of my project car life. Man, there has been a lot of chaos in my car guy life over the past few weeks, so let me tell you about that. First of all, do you remember that 1969 Chevy C20 that I got out of Las Vegas? I bought the thing dirt cheap. It was $5,000, and I have actually loved that truck. We've used it quite a bit as a family and also as a truck. The thing was low mileage, original survivor. Well, a couple weeks ago, it got sideswiped. It was just parked in my neighborhood innocently, and somebody left a note on it that said, "I scraped your truck." This is more than a scrape. This is a folding of sheet metal. I was just absolutely heartbroken by that. Fortunately, my guy Jeff at Driven Garage in Oakland, California has volunteered to help me out to fix that thing. I just need to get around to doing it. Next, I recently started a road trip video on my Galaxie convertible, which is right when the brake pedal went to the floor and killed those plans. After that, I sold my 1971 Chevelle wagon from a recent video. I ended up dropping my price enough to sell it to my friend Tony, who you saw help me in the episode where I fixed it up. But after dropping the wagon with Tony, I went to pick up a '56 Chevy that I'd bought for a video trip. It ended up having super cracked paint. And while it's insane that I, of all people, would care about paint problems, the seller was super cool and offered me my money back, and I made him keep the deposit. So that all ended well, but no video. Also, I had to get a ride home. So to do that, I borrowed this '57 Chevy station wagon that Tony had sold to Uncle Dan in Tucson, and so I got it to LA and then met up with the shipper to get it to Arizona. After that, it was a dyno day with a 496 cubic inch big block Chevy that made 700 horsepower on pump gas. I decided to save that video until I can reveal the nutty car that it's going in. Wait for it. My last attempt to make a video this week was to work on my Orange Possum Special, the van. I wanted to get the engine running perfectly, and long story short, I couldn't get it done in time for this week's episode, but you will see that soon. Meanwhile, I needed to make an episode, so I grabbed the Galaxie for this fantastic adventure. And yes, when you get the Galaxie, you get the hat. Let me tell you more about this Galaxie if you haven't seen the prior episode where I obtained it, or actually 2 episodes. One where I obtained it and one where I road tripped it. They're actually really good. I got this from a guy nearby Phoenix, and it had been just sort of in a carport across the street from him for maybe even decades. It was a complete grandma left behind. It only rolled 95,000 miles on the way here last night. I don't know why we're always compelled to show the odometer. You know how you have to stop and take a picture of the odometer whenever your mileage is even like that? Well, it rolled 95,000, and this guy made this car spectacular. New 390 engine with all new alternator starter, radiator, everything. New exhaust system, mid-length headers, brand new FMX automatic transmission, new drive shaft, all new suspension, and it's got a hidden stereo and all new weather stripping for the weather stripping that was available from the aftermarket. I mean, this car is it's been a great driver. You did see the episode where I tried to trade the thing off. I was going to trade it for a '65 Chevelle station wagon, and I'm going to say it's a good thing I didn't. This car was worth more and is also just far more useful and nice. I have considered selling it. I have considered trading it. but it has been a regular vehicle around my household, this and that C20, and I don't know, I kind of love it. It is the world's greatest boring car. That's the punchline. Quick interruption. You know, one of the things that's going to make this road trip great is the fact that I am driving the world's greatest boring car. I love my old Galaxie because it's not a mobility blob. You know what I'm talking about. And that's why I now have the shirt, "Life is too short to drive a mobility blob." It's got the little blob, "No, don't make it happen" up on the front. On the back, the full artwork. You can get these at my store right now. The link's in the description. It's shop.davidfreiburger.com. Let's get back to the road trip. Right now, I'm heading north out of Bishop, California. I'm on Highway 6, which is the Grand Army of the Republic Highway. The Grand Army of the Republic was sort of a fraternal order of veterans of the Union side of the Civil War. The last original member, I read on Wikipedia, I always give you that disclaimer because it's Wikipedia. They said the last original surviving member died in 1956. This highway used to start all the way down in Long Beach, California by me, but now it starts here in Bishop and it runs all the way to Massachusetts. First stop, before I go into this, I gotta tell you, because of my arm, I've gone to the selfie stick. It's super annoying. I feel like an influencer in the wild. That aside, I can't believe that I have never heard of this place before. I've been in this area a lot, and I didn't even know that right there in those mountains over there was a Champion spark plug mine. Yes, they dug actual spark plugs out of the ground and shipped them. No, actually, they did dig some material out of them, as you can read on that plaque right there at the side of the road. They called it sillimanite in the ancient Champion ads, and they called it, what does this say? It is andalusite. They call it on a lot of the online resources and also on this Clamper's plaque right there. Apparently it was a material that was used to make the porcelain and the spark plugs, and after World War II, they didn't need it anymore because they had man-made items that could serve that purpose. But it was a mine here for whatever mineral that was from 1921 to 1945. Pretty cool. I've read that it takes a four-wheel drive to get up to the actual mine, so the Galaxie's not going to be doing that. But I'm glad that I know that it's here. I'd like to come back someday with a Jeep, make it happen the right way. Back to the adventure. Next little town, Benton. I stopped at Smalley's Market back there to give him a little business, buying some cream soda and Funyuns, as you do. And I showed him some old pictures that I had, and he pointed and said, 4 miles that way. So we're gonna go 4 miles that way and see if those old buildings are still standing. And then come back here and see some even better stuff in Benton. Maybe not better stuff, but more stuff. Local intel never fails. I made the 4-mile drive from Benton to Benton Hot Springs, and sure enough, right here is the old building that I was looking for. Watch this as we match up the then and now, or I guess it would be the now, and then the then, and then the now. It's pretty good. This is the same exact place, and it has not changed much. Look at this photo from this angle, and you can see that the same exact gas pump is still out front, and that same pole that carried the Chevron sign. So cool. The top of the building here says Benton Hot Springs, established 1852 as the local area was, but this building has actually been here since 1868. It opened up as a Wells Fargo agency, and it's been a general store pretty much ever since, although not occupied right now, as it would seem. Look up here in the rafters. The Aero Eastern motor oil, super refined. Wow, that's cool. A couple other old oil cans up there. I'm looking around, and this is a super freaky thing to find here. That is an airflow. Chrysler Corporation bet on aerodynamics way back in 1934, producing the Chrysler Airflow from 1934 to 1937 and the slightly smaller DeSoto Airflow only through 1936. In addition to the radical styling on these things, they were built on a unibody and had no removable frame. The public didn't trust this to be strong, so a promo film was made both barrel rolling the car and jumping it off a cliff to prove that they would still run and drive after major impacts. Ad copy said they were built like a bridge and had battleship construction. They also proved themselves with endurance records at Bonneville, and none of this mattered because the public didn't really like the look, and I think really it's because they were radically more expensive than a regular car, so they kind of flopped. I think this one here is a Chrysler rather than a DeSoto. It looks to be the long wheelbase, and it's crazy to see it here just sitting around with other more mainstream old cars. So now you know the story of the Airflow. There's a bunch of other cars around here and some other stuff to check out before we leave Benton. Okay, that was unexpected greatness, but I gotta move on. There's a lot more on this trip. Sometimes I think that people who are from other parts of the country don't realize that the Old West was pretty much just as it was depicted in movies, because when they were making those movies, this stuff was still around. I mean, it's still around now, but it was more in its pure form back in the 30s and 40s when they were making that stuff. I will say the Galaxie doesn't handle that well. Whee! And yet it handles perfectly. Both things can be true. Now I'm out of Benton Hot Springs and into Benton proper. I always love stopping at this little place, partially because of those cool gas pumps. Look at the shape of the glass on the front of those things, so good. And in the background, the illustration of people enjoying their RV at the RV park. Wow. And on this building, you can tell it used to be the cafe or the office. And it says cocktails in very faint lettering across the front. Here's the thing, in my last videos with this car, I may have mentioned to you that the oil pressure was making me uncomfortable. It was having 10 or less at hot idle, and on the highway like what I'm doing right now, cruising at about 27 at RPM, it had 30. And I think the guy was using 10W30 oil in it, and I drained that out at its first oil change under my ownership and put in some VR1 2050. And now the oil pressure has come up to 25 at hot idle, and right now it's just about 40 rolling down the highway. So higher viscosity oils seem to be the trick in this case. All right, I made it to Tonopah, Nevada. I've been here before, so what I'm gonna do is keep cannonballing, because what I really want to see is Goldfield, and I have to backtrack through here, and so I'll be able to show you Tonopah on my way back through. Right now, I'm gonna keep going. By the way, I'm getting 11 to 14 miles to the gallon, depending on which leg I have been on and how many hills there are. So that's been cool. You know, I've put a lot of miles on this car, and you start to develop a bond with it. And I have to admit, I always thought that the soundtrack for the Galaxie was probably Dwight Yoakam, but after extensive field analysis on this, I have to admit, there was a moment where it was almost John Denver. It fit, but fortunately it's been overcome. The soundtrack for the Galaxie is provided by Jerry Reed. And I'm not talking Eastbound and Down. I'm not even talking about novelty songs. I'm talking about deep cuts on Jerry Reed. However, Lord Mr. Ford, what have you done? Galaxie is good. I actually love the Galaxie. I stopped to visit a little bit with these guys from a distance. They are actual burros. They're left over from the mining days, and a lot of miners just sort of set them free when those days were over. And they're all over the southwestern desert, although it's unusual for me to see this many in a clump. And now Goldfield, Nevada. Not only with a very cool welcome sign, but directly across the street from that was a junkyard, which is pretty good, with a Formula Firebird on the top of a shipping container, as well as some other stuff. Fox Mustang up there. Goldfield was hopping in the very early 1900s, like 1900s, 07, 08. And then in 1923, it had a massive fire that wiped out almost the entire town. And of course, the business here was, as you might expect, gold. And they also had silver, and there was a lot of train yard stuff here as well. And if I've ever been here, I don't recall it. Of course, every time I say that, somebody comes up with a clip from Roadkill and says, yeah, you were here, idiot. Oh man, this is neat. Maybe I've been through here at night, but I've never really explored. That's what's gonna happen right now. I already have to go back and check out some of that stuff. And there's a big movie trivia surprise for you at the end. I'm gonna wait. Oh, they're fixing that old gas station. That's good. Oh yeah, this is good. Garage sign. You know how much I love garage signs. Oh, machine shop sign. Okay, this place is good. Art cars. Some old buildings so that I can show you my before and afters. Look at the Shell sign. And it says garage there too. Oh, look at that super modern gas station. My heart be still. It's all a pitter patter over Goldfield, Nevada. Oh, there's more. '69 Jimmy. And a swept line. Look at that, Jimmy. I need that. All right, Goldfield is all killer, no filler. Let's hang a Yui and go back through and see some more stuff. This is the Esmeralda County Courthouse, still active since 1907. No. The Brown Parker Auto Company, Ford Sales and Service. Oh, I hope that's not faked up. That's an art exhibit in place right there, Main Street. Oh, wow. GMC, Action Line era, square body, tin grill Dodge, 66-ish Chevys. This is incredible. The brown Parker garage was breathtaking to me. Nearly the whole town of Goldfield burned down in 1923, including this business, which had been there since at least 1917 as a Ford dealer. That's really early. They rebuilt in 1924, and the building still stands with this great Ford service logo on one end. You know, you see pictures of a place on the internet, but you don't know unless you go. You still have to go there and check it out for yourself. This is so much better than the pics that I've seen online. Look at this bar, the Columbia Bar. And there's a Willys pickup just sitting here on the street. And another swept line Dodge, early. I am so glad that I cannonballed here. This is a lot better than Tonopah. '67 El Camino sitting on the street. In the Old West, houses were often built of adobe and whatever building materials they had sitting around, such as this home built in 1905 with glass bottles. It's actually not that uncommon. Another building in Goldfield was constructed from old barrels. Behind the old Shell building, I found this stash of old cars. This looks to me to be a pair of either 47 or 48 Nashes. They look the same, but come around the backside and you can see that the far one is what they called a trunk sedan, and the near one was called a slipstream sedan. These came out in 1940 and sound suspiciously like the Chrysler Airflow that I told you about earlier in the episode, but the style was more acceptable by 1940 when these came out. The Nash 600 models were also claimed to be the first mass-produced unibodies, just like the airflow, but they were closer to a modern unibody because they didn't really have any frame at all. It was all sheet metal stampings. This is a 1949 Plymouth. I really like the style of the Mayflower hood ornament. And this is a 1960 Pontiac that has been converted to an ambulance by the Superior Coach Company. This car's huge. And here's a Mopar Slant 6. In my opinion, it is seen here doing its best work. This is a 1953 Hudson Jet, another unibody car, this one a downsize to compete with the likes of the Rambler. I think it's funny they called these Jet and Superjet and Jetliner. They had inline 6 power. They only made about 35,000 of these in 1953 and 1954 before Hudson merged with Nash to form AMC. Speaking of cars, here is a shot in 1908 when Goldfield was a stop during the New York to Paris race. Seen here is the Thomas Flyer car that won overall. They actually raced all the way around the world. It's nuts to think about back in 1908. The event and the car inspired my favorite movie, The Great Race from 1965. I imagine that Goldfield also inspired the fictional town of Baracho in the movie. Goldfield is great. I love it. There is so much stuff to see here. But the thing that I actually came for is right here behind me. Unbelievably, the Goldfield Hotel is the scene right there behind these windows in Vanishing Point. It is where Super Soul was broadcasting from KOW Radio, supporting Kowalski on his trip in that 70 Dodge Challenger 444 speed car. Yep, Super Soul broadcasting from right here in Vanishing Point, the movie. And you know what? There's a place down here too that was used as the sheriff's office. First, let me cross the street over here and I'm gonna do that thing where I show you the now and then the then. I've got some great shots of the Goldfield Hotel and this building down here that was the sheriff's office. As for the hotel itself, it was built from 1907 to 1908 at a time when Goldfield was the most populous city in all of Nevada. The internet believes the hotel was last operated immediately after World War II, and you can also read all sorts of claims of it being haunted. Getting back to the Vanishing Point movie, here's the building that was the sheriff's office, though you only ever saw it from the inside looking out the window. Looking inside today, you can see that they have it all set up in full early 1900s regalia. Man, I do not want to leave Goldfield. I will definitely come back here and explore. But I also want to see Tonopah. So let's put the hammer down for about half an hour and we'll go see if we can hit Tonopah before it gets dark. I made it back to Tonopah right at dusk. So unlike Goldfield, which was kind of known for gold, Tonopah was a silver town, and then of course also a railroad town. This place started in about 1900. And they've got cool stuff here. Nothing like Goldfield, but there's some pretty cool stuff anyway. Now we're rolling into the heart of town and the star attraction, which is the Mizpah Hotel. The Mizpah was built in 1907 and renovated in 2011 while retaining the old feel. I have actually stayed here just a few years ago, but not in the room of the so-called Lady in Red, who was probably a prostitute who was murdered here. The newest cars in this black and white photo are 49 or 50 Fords, so this was likely shot at that time. I think that blue car at the far right is a 1968 Galaxie Fastback, which dates this photo. You don't think of people driving around in their 1956 DeSoto in 1968, but there it is. This scene appears to be about 1940. I feel like that pole on the left is probably the very same one that is holding the Texaco sign on the left of this old postcard. And the 76 station is still a 76 station. Dave's L&L Motel on the right is gone. The building on the left is a bit lonely now, with its two neighbors having been razed. This was called the Golden Block, and that one building that's still standing is from 1902, making it the oldest in town. In the color shot here, note the white wall wearing Sunbeam Alpine out front. This must be about 1962 or 3. The Mizpah Historical Society site tells me that this building was erected in 1912, and Campbell and Kelly bought it in 1915 to open their business that eventually became a very early Chevy dealership. The website for the Clown Hotel has a full history. Here's the short version. It is right next to the creepy cemetery where Clarence David was buried after dying in a 1942 mine fire. Many years later, his kids opened the hotel in 1985 with their dad's clown collection on display, and soon enough, the place was world famous. That is a wrap on Tonopah for the night. Pretty cool stuff. I like the old buildings. Now I've got to cannonball 2.5 hours back to Bishop, but don't worry, there's going to be more neat stuff to look at tomorrow. I lived through that nighttime haul. You know what? The Galaxie is like the smoothest of my old cars. It's actually great. It makes these trips so much better. On that note, reminder, life is too short to drive a mobility blob. Get the t-shirt with the blob up front and the sign out back. It's really good. Okay, I am just outside Bishop, California now. I'm on Highway 395. Who does not love the Eastern Sierras? Look at that view. There's even more in town as I go through another rack of then and now photos. Check it out. This is Line Street in Bishop today, and this is the very same scene in the winter of 1933. That building on the left says Hupmobile on the front of it. What's a Hupmobile? Well, Robert Hupp was involved in the auto industry in the early 1900s and founded Hupp Motor Company in 1908. From 1910 to 1912, a Hupp car was driven all the way around the world. In 1934, they introduced, guess what? An aerodynamic body, like the ones I've already mentioned from Chrysler, DeSoto, and Nash. This one was designed by Raymond Loewy. Also, in 1934 and 1935, Hupp sold cars with body stampings largely shared with Ford, and the very last Hupp vehicle was the Skylark model, sold in 1941, and they were essentially Cords. There are a lot of photos of this building that's still standing that originated as the first national bank. I couldn't pinpoint the construction date on this deal, but I did find out that the bank folded in 1927, so it was likely well before that. This is among the least changed locations in town. This is looking the other way up from the bank building, and check out that VP Insurance sign at the very far left, and then check out this old photo and you can see that the Golden State Cafe has the very same sign. They just changed the lettering on it these days. Now I spy a 52 Buick Roadmaster as the newest car here. Here's the same scene looking the opposite way, south from the Golden State Cafe, and this is obviously a few years earlier. Check out the guy with what I think is a World War II Dodge weapons carrier with a camping trailer behind it. And at the far right is the Bishop Theater that was built in 1929, remodeled in the 50s, and still in use today. This is just a little bit down the street from the last scene, and this old pic appears to be from the early 40s. I'm really interested in the 33 Ford 5-window coupe that's missing a fender. Was the fender just crunched and removed, or is someone on the way to making a hot rod? Pretty neat, but there's more to be had down south. Now, Independence, California. I think one of the most sort of curious trivia tips here is the Inyo County Courthouse, which is where Charles Manson was brought after he was arrested at Barker Ranch in Death Valley in October of 1969. Now, this is 2 months after the Manson family had committed the Sharon Tate murders, and they were ultimately convicted of that. But at this courthouse, they were charged with arson and receiving stolen property. And you can see this old then and now of the courthouse. Directly across the street is the Winneduma Motel since 1927. And in this scene, you can see that Pines Cafe that has been the Pines Cafe as long as I've known it, and it's been out of business forever. And in this shot, you can see that building still standing. Almost everything else is completely gone. There's a GMC on the corner, and I'm really happy for them that they don't have the Mater eyes in the windshield. I'm also happy for me about that. And that was Independence. I'm making a pass through Lone Pine, California. This is actually my favorite town along the route, whatever you say. But I'm not going to spend a lot of time here this time. If you want to see more about Lone Pine, check out my video with the green station wagon. That is like one of the first videos I posted, first few. And you'll see a lot about Lone Pine. My favorite part right here, the sporting good and hardware stores with the neon trout. You know how much I love the neon trout. Well, the reason I'm going to be sort of blowing through Lone Pine is that there's a bunch of stuff further south on the west side of the road that I have rarely stopped to see. And so I want to do that before it gets too dark. I've taken a little road here from Cartaga in the north through Olancha, and this little town is Grant. And I've been here before, but not very often. But I recall from decades ago, that motorhome right there has been here the whole time. They've got this place coned off, so I'm not gonna drive in there or walk in there, but I'm gonna get a little footage of this neat station. And across the street, what appears to have been maybe a theater in Grant. There is nothing here. Wonder if there ever was. I had guessed that that building was a theater, but I checked it out. It was actually the Air Flight Cafe, and here's what it looked like when it appeared in the Twilight Zone TV show in 1961. The episode was called 100 Yards Over the Rim. I also found this old ad for that gas station across the street. Air flight, because there is a post-war dirt runway right behind this nearby multicolored building that was formerly the Ranch Motel back in the day.
Take me back to the old dirt road where Mama and Papa used to go. Well, take me home to rest where the mockingbirds nest and to cry through the green in the spring. Let's go back a ways to the old bygone days and the simple time we lived back when. Well, let the pull of the plow bring the sweat from my brow and the glow of the fire pull me home. Let me wind down my days in the sweet dusty haze. Take me back down the old dirt road. Oh, take me back down the old dirt road. Take me back down the old dirt road.
Well, the darkness outran me, and that's why I've got my own movie light here. As you can see, I am right on 395. There's actually some pretty cool stuff back here, but you can't see it because it's dark, but I hope you've enjoyed the episode anyway. I have multiple takeaways. First of all, you remember the beginning of the show, I was talking about some of the episodes that I tried that didn't work, specifically the van. I think a lot of the times you consume automotive media and the people make it seem like everything's perfect and it's just gonna happen and you're gonna do it really fast and you're gonna do it cheaply. And that's just not the reality, and I think it's important to show that, as I have for most of my career, that mistakes actually do happen. Second of all, the big takeaway, Goldfield, Nevada, dude. Really, really good. I want to find my way back there. And lastly, and most importantly, this is the world's greatest boring car, and I highly recommend you get something like it. Sure, you could get something that you're super enthusiastic about, but the key to this thing is that it's basic, but it all works. Everything is new. It's comfortable. It's fast enough. It's not really fast at all, but in the old days they would say it has passing power. And I guess it's just reliable and you don't have to worry about it that much. Ultimately, even if you've got an old, boring car, it's better than a mobility blob. I'm gonna go back to that. Get your mobility blob t-shirt. The link is down there in the description. And in future episodes on the David Freiburger channel, I will continue to flog old stuff, even if it doesn't break down and give me those great, like, will it run disaster roadkill type episodes. You can still just have fun looking around as I did. By the way, this was a 3-day adventure and it would have been 2 if I weren't shooting video. So you can just make a plan, get out there with your old car and have fun. I'm gonna poke around here a little bit and I'll see you next time. I remember when this was actually a restaurant. It's burned down.